This video is sponsored by Squarespace. Everyone recently thinks that they're in a very Chinese time in their lives, but I'm gonna quantify it for you. This is a checklist for if you had Chinese parents, would they approve of you? Like, if you might think that you're Chinese, right? But like, do the Chinese think that you're Chinese? So the way this works is I'm gonna list up a bunch of statements that are like Chinese related, and then there's gonna be like a score for each item. So keep track of your score as you go along, and then at the end, I'll tell you if you had Chinese parents, would you be a disappointment to them? Would the Chinese approve of you? Okay, I know you want to be Chinese, but like, do you get the Chinese pass? There's a bunch of different categories for this checklist. We're gonna go through each of them one by one. You can also check the chapters at the bottom. But the first category, we're gonna start with academics because obviously this is a Are You Chinese quiz. So academics, starting with like pre-university academics, so like high school, middle school, etc., whatever you're in. So first one, obviously, if you had straight A's in school, then you get plus 10 points. Next item on the list, if you had extra tuition after school, even if like the first item applied and you had straight A's, but you still went to extra tuition, if that applies to you, then you get plus 2 points. So you should be following along right now with your points, right? So like, for example, if the statement number 1, like straight A's was true and you also went to extra tuition, then you would have 10 plus 2 equals 12 points right now, okay? But if you had neither, then you would have 0 points, okay? You get me? You following? You understanding? Okay, and then following on from that, the next section is still academics, but like university, college, academics, or like if you already have a job, like if you're an adult. So starting obviously, if you studied medicine, then that's plus 10 points. And then if after you studied medicine, you became an actual doctor, if you actually became a doctor, then that plus 12 points. And also congratulations, your parents have already told everyone. They've told absolutely everyone. And then the next one, bonus, on top of being a doctor, you became a surgeon. So that's like bonus prestige, right? So if that happened to you, then that's plus 7 points. And also, I would personally hate you if you were my cousin, because now you're going to be used as like a bragging chip amongst less successful cousins. If you studied law, then that's plus 9 points, but minus 6 points if after you studied law, you didn't become a lawyer. So the reason this is minus 6 points is because this is basically bad, right? Because like people will ask you, what happened? And like, you got so close. What can you do? If you studied dentistry, then that's plus 8 points. If you studied engineering, then that's also plus 8 points. If you studied computer science, that's also plus 8 points, except actually, I'm not actually sure how many points this would get nowadays given the job market, but computer science plus 8. Plus 6 points on top of if you studied engineering or like computer science or like one of those tech fields, and then now you work for like a big tech or finance company, like you work for like Google or like, I don't know, like Bloomberg or like one of the heavy hitter household names, then that's plus 6 points on top of that. If you studied finance or economics, that's plus 7 points. And then plus 10 points on top of that if after studying finance or economics, you went into like investment banking or like quant finance, like one of the big like money maker careers. If that's you, that's an extra 10 points. Plus 4 points if you studied accounting, and plus 5 points if you studied pharmacy, which is like quietly respectable, but also your parents would be thinking you could have just done medicine. If you studied a subject related to getting a government job or like civil service job, and that's plus 3 points. Okay, so that's the full list of like acceptable or like good jobs or like acceptable Chinese parent degrees to have. So now we're going to talk about degrees that'll dock your points. I remember having this conversation with my parents. So if you studied fine art, then that's minus 5. If you studied music, then that's minus 3. If you went to school for drama or acting, then that's also minus 5, because God forbid, do you want to be homeless? Like, do you want to be jobless? Fashion, minus 5. Interdisciplinary studies, minus 6. If your degree has the words liberal arts in it, that's also minus 7. And then cream of the crop, minus 8 if you said, I design my own major. What a nightmare. What does that mean to a Chinese parent? What the And then following on from that, some general college factors. So if your degree subject was commonly seen as difficult, and that's plus 3 points, but minus 4 points if after your difficult degree, it did not automatically lead to a good job. Plus 6 points if you went to like a top university. So interpret top here however you will, but like in the mind of like, think of like your stereotype of like what your Chinese mom would want you to go to. Like if that's like a top university, it's basically like a recognizable name, right? Like, so So recognizable here, again, up to your interpretation. But basic rule of thumb is if your random uncle would recognize the name of the university at like a family dinner, like if it's a university name that your mom could throw out in like a slightly smug bragging way to another middle-aged woman at a family gathering whose 14-year-old daughter is sitting next to her playing Genshin Impact on your phone, if it's that kind of university, then that's plus 6 points. But if you went to like a quote-unquote unknown university, then that's a minus 3 points. So again, use the above rule of thumb for unknown university. Minus 4 points if you didn't use your degree after graduation. Another minus 4 if you switched majors halfway through your degree. If you ever said degrees don't matter, then that's minus 1. It's like you want your dad to just like keel over. Like what is wrong with you? If you took a gap year, then that's also minus 4 because how would you explain that on your CV? Your cousin Michael did a master's during his gap year. Why don't you do a master's in your gap year? You know, don't waste it. Do something productive. So you might have just gone through that career section and been like, my career is not on there. I didn't do computer science. Well, don't worry, because one trick if you don't know computer science is you can fake it through making an incredible website via Squarespace where you don't need to know how to code, but you can still make a really sick website with Squarespace. You can make a nice site and pretend, hey mom, look, I know computer science. You know, I'm actually even better than cousin Michael who went to Yale for computer science because I can do what he does, except I didn't have to spend all that money. So I'm saving money and I can do computer science, okay? Like try that on your parents. Maybe it'll work, who knows? But that's thanks to Squarespace's Blueprint AI. And look at this. You can just click it, tell it what you want, and like bing bang boom, the site is done, right? The site is up and it looks legit, okay? Like so fast, so fresh, so cool, okay? Another thing, they have built-in analytics. That basically means you can see who's like visiting your site, where they're from, etc., which is kind of, if you think about it, that's kind of like data science. So you can tell your mom, hey mom, I know data science and I'm self-taught, except don't say that, okay? Because humility is valued in Chinese culture. Get started today. Go to squarespace.com/crystal to get 10% off your first website or domain using code CRYSTAL. Please do it. Thank you. Cool. So that concludes academics. And now we're going to go into hobbies. But specifically, I use the word hobby here very loosely because hobbies in like a Chinese family, it's not really about like what you like to do in your spare time, but rather what you did, which could be put under the term hobbies on like a university application. You get what I mean? You'll understand better when we go along. Okay. So hobbies. If you learned piano as a child, then that's plus 4 points. If you learned violin as a child, that's also plus 4 points. Any other classical instrument, so like anything orchestral, that's like plus 3 points. So like stuff like the cello or I don't know, like the trumpet, okay? Like that's plus 3 points. And then an extra plus 2 points if out of the above mentioned instruments only, okay? So like if for those instruments you reached a high level in them, high level here has a very specific meaning, which is like you got grade 8 in that instrument. So like you have to have done an official exam for this to count, okay? So in order for you to get these points, you can't just be like really good at it, but there's like no paper confirming that you're really good. You don't get these. But minus 5 if because you learned the piano or violin or like another classical instrument as a child, you considered pursuing music professionally. If you like did that as a child and then actually you were like, hey mom, I have like a real hankering and desire to like make this my career. If you actually want to do that, minus 5. And then follow on from that, if after that you actually pursued music professionally, and that's minus 8. If you did competitive math or like math Olympiad as a kid, then that's plus 3. If you played chess or you were in chess club, then that's plus 3 as well. Debate, public speaking, plus 3. And then any other like academic club, use your like layman's understanding of that. Academic club, plus 2. And obviously we also have to get sports in there. So if you did swimming, that's plus 3. Badminton, plus 3. Table tennis, plus 2. Tennis, plus 2. Running, plus 2. If you did gymnastics, then that's plus 4. And if you did ballet, then that's plus 2. Figure skating, plus 2. And any other traditional dance, then that's also plus 2. But minus 6 if because you did any of these sports or dances as a kid, you consider doing it professionally as your actual career, then that's minus 6. And then follow on from that, if you actually pursued it professionally in your adult life, then that's minus 8. Plus 2 for if any of the above activities, if you talked about that hobby or like that sport or that instrument and you like put it in your college application, but you did not pursue it professionally, then you get plus 2. So only if you use like whatever enrichment activity above as something to write about for one of the approved careers. Again, refer to list above, but not something to actually study or pursue seriously in your adult life, plus 2 points. Okay, cool. Now we're gonna move on to like behavior, personality, lifestyle section. So starting with simple one, if you don't argue with your parents, then that's plus 2. This one's pretty self-explanatory. Even if they're wrong, they're right. It's like having a girlfriend, you know? Like, even if they're wrong, they're right. That's just the way it is. If you own a rice cooker, then that's plus 4 points. But minus 3 if you don't wash the rice before you cook it. Plus 1 point if you prefer drinking hot or warm water to cold water. Minus 1 if you put ice in your water before you drink it. If you take your shoes off immediately when you get home and you put them at the door, and that's plus 2 points. If you wear slippers at home, that's plus 1. If you have clothes that you wear specifically at home, like they're clothes that you don't go out in, they're like your house clothes. If you have that, then that's plus 1 point. If you keep any plastic bag that you get, so like if you get like a takeaway and it comes in a plastic bag and you keep that bag, that's plus 2 points. If you have a designated plastic bag of plastic bags in your house, and that's plus 1 point. And then if you reuse all of these plastic bags on like an actual regular basis, and that's also plus 1 point. If you offer fruit to others, then that's also plus 1 point. I feel like this like offering cutting fruit thing has kind of been like overblown online, but it's still kind of true. So I'm just gonna keep it in there. Plus 1 point if you cut and offer fruit to other people. This is very important for some reason. But if you don't peel the skin off the fruit before you eat it, I'm taking that point back. So like minus 1 if you don't peel the skin off. If you're out at a restaurant with someone and you insist on paying the bill, and that's plus 4 points. And then minus 5 points if you let someone else pay the bill at a restaurant without insisting that you pay. Like if you don't even do like the little like pantomime, like try and fight for the bill thing, that minus 5. When someone gives you a gift, if you fake refuse once or twice before accepting the gift, so like for example, like they give you a gift and you're like, oh no, I can't, you shouldn't, I can't take this, no. If you do that thing, then plus 4 points. If you try hard in your career or your work, regardless of what it is, and that's plus 3 points. If you can do things even if you don't feel like it, and that's another plus 3. If you don't quit easily, and that's plus 2. If you can sit down and focus for extended periods of time, that's plus 3. And if you're capable of like delaying gratification, that's also plus 3. By the way, really quick, if you want an interactive version of this checklist where you can just like check off whichever boxes apply to you and you don't have to like add it up by yourself, then you can get one of these at my coffee shop. The link is up there and also down there. Okay, so this next category is a category that I call optics. So optics is generally basically like you in relation to your cousins or siblings or people of relative same age as you in your family. So what I mean by this is when your parents are like sizing up other people's parents against you, like do you come out on top? Like are you in the middle? Are you in the bottom? Because like sometimes you might have scored badly in the other categories based on like your own individual merits, right? But like in comparison to the other people around you, like the other children around you, you might still come out on top. This is me basically in my own family. Okay, so starting with the first statement, which is you are the most successful amongst your cousins. So success here referred to above criteria for success, not your own individuated like westernized sense of success, okay? Like quantified success. So if that's you, then that's plus 5 points. Also for this section below, I'm going to use the word cousin here, but feel free to substitute cousin with like sibling or like your parents, friends, children. Basically like any child that your parents also tangentially are aware of, just replace with that word. Okay, and then the next statement, it's the reverse of that. So if your cousins slash siblings slash whatever child is doing better than you, then that's minus 5 points. And then if you are clearly behind the rest of your cousins slash sibling, blah, 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 that's another minus 5. So it's like a multiplier, you know? So if you're like clearly behind, that's another minus 5. If your cousin is a doctor, minus 3 points. If your cousin works at a better company than you, that's a minus 2. If your cousin's job is easier to explain, also minus 2. If your cousin earns more money than you, minus 3. If your cousin bought property, minus 2 points. And then finally, if a younger cousin surpasses you, so they're younger than you and they did better than you, minus 3 points. Okay, cool. Now we're gonna go into the next category, which I've labeled niche slash esoteric, like specific Chinese practices. So we're gonna go through the list. If you go through these and you're like asking questions like, what do these words mean? Why is that? Just don't worry about it, but also you're not passing. Okay, so starting with the first one, if you know what this is, then that's plus 2 points. And then following on from that, because you know what this is and you adjust your diet according to this, then that's plus 1 point. If you drink iced water regularly, apparently that's minus 2 points. If you go outside with wet hair, that's also minus 2 points. If you sleep with wet hair, minus 2 points as well. Okay, cool. And then the next section is about like money / stability. So first one, pretty obvious, but if you're unemployed, that's a minus 5. So for unemployed here, okay? So like if you are an adult who's unemployed, obviously if you're still in school, then this doesn't apply to you. Don't minus 5. I'd say for this one, if you've been unemployed for like more than 6 months, then this applies to you minus 5. If you have savings of some kind, that's plus 2. If you send money home with your job, then that's plus 3. If you quit a stable job without a solid plan, that's a minus 6. If your income fluctuates month per month, then that's minus 6 as well. Plus 1 point if you live at home, and like that saves you money. And then another plus 1 if because you live at home, you eat home cooked food, and that also saves you money. If you're saving money to buy property, then that's plus 3. If generally people would say that you're like practical with your money, or you're like conservative with your money, and that's plus 3. Minus 3 if you're renting long term, because as you probably gleaned from the theme earlier, you're wasting money by renting, because why aren't you saving to buy a house with your minimal savings? If you've ever told your parents that you moved out for freedom, then that's minus 6. Because this is like a double whammy to the nuts, right? Because not only did you say some shit, you're gonna move out for freedom or independence, but also number 2, you're renting by moving out, which is also wasting money. If other people would consider you successful, then that's plus 3. But if your parents don't really understand what your job is, then that's minus 3. If on top of that, relatives don't understand what you do, and that's minus 4, because now your parents will have to like explain what your job is, or like have that conversation with your nosy ass aunt, okay? And they don't want to do that, okay? Like, why would you put them through this? Cool. And then moving on to the final section, which is a fun one, which is dating. This one will be fun for you if you have any sort of Asian parent. However, you will understand this. You will resonate heavily with this section, not just if you're Chinese, any Asian parent. Okay, so starting off, if you didn't date as a teenager or in high school, then that's plus 5 points, but minus 7 points if you didn't date as an adult. This might be confusing to you, but like if you did not date as an adult, then that's minus 7. Partially it may be because you weren't allowed to date anyone when you were teenagers, and now you don't really know how to, like, you never built the skills, and now you're an adult, but like now your parents are concerned about you, you know, because like, why don't you have a boyfriend or a girlfriend? It's weird now. It's embarrassing. Why? If your partner has a stable, high-paying job in one of the acceptable careers, refer to the earlier items in this checklist for that list. If your partner has a good job in like those fields, and that's plus 4 points. If your partner has tattoos, and that's minus 5. If your partner has a non-traditional career, again, non-traditional refer to any career that's not in the list above of acceptable careers, then that's minus 6 points. But plus 2 if your partner's parents are impressive. So impressive here being as in they have one of the acceptable jobs in the earlier, refer to the earlier items in this checklist. If you're married by your late 20s, then that's plus 5. If you're in a serious relationship in your adulthood, then that's plus 3. But if you're single past the age of 30, that's minus 4. And if you seem okay with it, then that's minus 7. Cool, so that concludes the last of the items. So count up what score you got. You should have a number now between 247 and negative 195, and find your number, right? And like with that number, I'm going to tell you what it means. So if you scored between 180 to 247, then the spirit of Confucius himself lives in you, okay? You are a source of pride to your parents and a point of comparison to all other cousins or siblings of a similar age to you in your family. You were the top of your class growing up every single year without fail. After high school, you went to Harvard Medical School and graduated valedictorian. But on the side, you are also a chess grandmaster on the National Math Olympiad team. But if you didn't do all of that, you at least went to an Ivy League, and then you studied something like law or engineering or finance, and then crucially, you actually became it. A doctor, a lawyer, a banker, etc. Anything with like a clear, fat title and an even clearer, fatter paycheck behind it. Your parents love you, but I would personally hate if my parents knew you. If you scored between 120 to 179, then you're middle of the pack at Yale. So you're good, right? Like, your parents are proud of you, but you're just not like as innately gifted and cracked like that first guy. And that is not your fault, okay? That first guy is like a once in a blue moon exceptional child, but you worked hard, you studied something very respectable, and now you have a good job. This is the result of effort, discipline, and years of doing exactly what you were told. And your parents like to tell you that you are the shining example that hard work trumps all talent, which the more you think about it, you're not entirely sure that that's a good compliment. If you score between 60 to 119, then you are the second most talked about kid at the family gathering. So here, you did well, right? Like, you went to a good school. Maybe not an Ivy League, but like something respectable, you know, like a UC school, maybe a solid Russell Group university, you know, like something your parents can say without embarrassment, but it doesn't quite land in exactly the same way. Your 80-year-old grandmother might not know the name of it, but all of your other relatives would have. You probably studied something sensible like business or economics, and now you work in a mid-sized firm. Your parents do like to bring you up at the family gathering. Like, your name is mentioned, but usually it's followed up by the mention of your other cousin who just became an associate at Goldman Sachs. If you scored between 0 to 59 points, then you are wasted potential. You were a great kid growing up. You were so smart and you were so full of potential, but you threw it all away in your adult years. You watch too much Western TV and now you just want to go to bottomless brunch and like take pottery class, listen to rap music. After all the money we spent on you, wasted. Okay, now we're gonna get into the negative numbers. So if you scored between -1 to -80, then you are a disappointment. I am so sorry. You are a disappointment. Not in an actual like catastrophic way, but like in the quiet, undeniable way that you didn't live up to your parents, what you may argue, too high expectations of you. You had potential. People saw it. Your parents definitely saw it. And then nothing really came of it. Your life is fine, technically, but it's not what it's supposed to be. Occasionally, you're used by relatives as a warning story to motivate younger cousins. They might mention your name and be like, don't be like your older cousin. They're already 30, and they're still unmarried. They're still renting alone. So sad. If you score between -81 to -150, then you require intervention. Here, you're not only a disappointment, you're a situation that your parents think require actual intervention. You're basically only brought up at the family gathering with like a tone of concern. Your mom has gone to the temple to burn incense, said a prayer for you. They've gone to Chinese medicine practitioners, friend of a friend, someone's aunt who like knows these things. Maybe your parents have even considered shipping you off to boarding school. Who knows? But they've definitely hammered home how your grandmother is losing sleep over this. If you score between -151 to -195, then you are a black sheep. Your parents actively avoid trying to bring you up. At this point, they've tried everything, right? Like good school, folk prayer, sending you away, and somehow you still ended up like this. You have actively set this family back. Did you know that? At family gatherings, your parents don't bring you up first, or second, or at all. But occasionally, someone else will. Carefully and tentatively, like they're referencing something unfortunate that happened a while ago, which in the eyes of this family, you are. And that concludes this checklist. For the record, if you're curious, I scored 50 points, which according to the score interpretation, I am wasted potential, which is probably accurate because while I went to one of the best law schools in the world, I also quit before I qualified to become a full-time YouTuber. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you like this video, then you should check out this Chinese themed video that I made here, or you should watch this video that YouTube thinks you should watch next.